Hello, and welcome to the Bake to the Future podcast. Today, we're here to talk about the International Baking Industry Expo, also known as IBIE, held September 13th through 17th in Las Vegas this year. IBIE is held triannually and is recognized as the largest exhibition and education event for the baking and grain-based food industry in the Western Hemisphere. Founded in 1920, IBIE is a nonprofit event produced by the three leading baking associations representing the U.S. baking industry: American Bakers Association, or ABA, Bakery Equipment Manufacturers and Allies, or BEMA, Retail Bakers of America, RBA. All proceeds from IBIE are reinvested back into the industry to support advocacy, workplace initiatives, student scholarships, consumer education, sustainability, food safety, and more. Joining me today are Jorge Zarate, Chief Supply Chain Officer at Grupo Bimbo, and Samantha Moore, Senior Director of Events and Programming at ABA, to talk about this exciting event. Welcome. Let's kick off with what makes IBIE an essential event for the baking industry.
IBIE is a really very important event for the industry. What I would say that is the most important thing is you can find in the same roof, in the same city, with the same industry actors, all what you may need to succeed in your business. All the members they can find, and I mean not just the attendees, but also the exhibitors. They can find whatever they may need in the actual situations, but also in the future. And I'm talking about the whole supply chain, the whole value chain: ingredients, equipment, services, logistics, and the most important, the people, the right people that is really leading this industry and making it greater.
Yeah, I would agree. I think as our theme for this year's IBIE is focusing on the heroes of baking, the folks that work in facilities, in the bakery every day, and what do they need to be successful. And I think when you look at IBIE, it's every 3 years, and having almost 1,000 exhibitors and 20,000 people who are all there for one goal, which is to be better at baking. It's essential. You have to be there, or else you're not part of that. And I think as we've been around for over 100 years now, that's very clear that when you're at IBIE, it's essential to be there and to be talking and to be seeing, like Jorge said, what is there now and also what is there for the future.
Great. Now, as you mentioned, IBIE has evolved for over the past 100 years. What's new for this year?
I would say what's new for this year, I think there's been a lot of firsts in the last 3 or so IBIEs, really starting in 2019. For those who have been to the show many, many times, that really was the event that maybe felt very different from previous years. And I think going into 2022, post COVID, or still in the midst of COVID, really, and coming out very strong in there, is that we knew that this was the first year in 2025 where it was kind of post COVID. The industry was back better than ever, but with new challenges. And so, looking at IBIE for the 2025 year, we wanted to make sure, again, we were focusing on the people. They've had a rough go around, and things are changing constantly. And so, when we looked at what did we want to do new this year, we wanted to make sure that there were experiences for everybody and that it was easy to find them. And so it's something that you maybe don't think about, but data was a big component to IBIE 2025. And so we're going to be able to take the demographics when you register and you answer the questions about who are you, what do you do when you're at work. We'll be able to then tell that individual, here are the sessions based on your job description or your job title. Here are the exhibitors that maybe fit what you said you were looking for. And it's in a non-pushy way. It's in a non-big brother way, but it's just very tailored to basically what your work title is. And so you're now going to be better able to navigate the two halls, which is the West Hall and the North Hall, and find things that you are definitely looking for, but then along the way, find things that maybe you weren't looking for, which is also kind of the magic of IBIE.
Yeah. Well, what I can add of what Samantha already said is all the features that we have been including in the last decades that are they are very good, and every year we improve them. This year we are going to improve them as well, all of them. But if I can tell you something really new, it's something related with IBIE, Educate, which is not new. It's a feature that we have been improving every year, but this year actually is going to be included in your event registration. And the other thing is that we're going to have a special track in Spanish, which is one of the most important member attendees that are going to be there, and also exhibitors. Also new, we will have this pet food pavilion and the snack food pavilion, which is something breaking new for this show in this time. So
Great. With all those new pieces, what trends in baking and technology do you expect to dominate this year at IBIE?
yeah, well, what I'm expecting, and what I see that is happening, we will have still a lot of automation, Internet of Things, and connectivity, which has been existing in the past recent shows. But what I'm expecting now is that all without all that technology that we started to use in the past shows, now data analytics, as Samantha was mentioning, is going to take up a real special place, and that analytics also is giving us the opportunity to explore on the machine learning from our processes, which is at the end of the day what we are looking for. Sustainability initiatives, I think, is also that is going to take a special place, because regulations and needs for protecting our planets are increasing, and our members, either exhibitors, bakers, equipment manufacturers, and as well the bakers, are totally committed to go on that. So I would expect not just devices, equipments, but also services to help us on find those solutions. And solutions for food safety, that is getting tougher and tougher every year as well. People safety, of course, is very important for our industry. And I would say that increasing every cycle, what I'm expecting is also to have a greater coverage on the supply chain, not just in the bakery side, but what is it before the bakery side, and also what is after the bakery side as well in our industry.
I would agree. I think just kind of looking at where things are, we have a lot of ingredient companies that exhibit at IBIE, and people always ask, why is IBIE every 3 years? And it really, what I've always been told, and when I ask members of what would they think if we were maybe more frequently or less frequently, is that they need time to develop the new solutions and test and get a go-to-market strategy. But specifically for the ingredient side, is that regulations change, every couple months, it seems, maybe on a federal or a state level. And the ability to keep up with that, make sure you're in compliance and safe. And when you want to show new technologies, especially in the ingredient side, you need that time. And so when you're looking at what I think people are going to see, especially with the new political climate one way or another, and the new regulatory climate that might be coming, is that you're going to see folks putting forth new technologies, new solutions that our bakers are going to need to be looking at and considering in order to stay where they need to be with consumers and with regulations.
That ties in well to my next question. How does attending IBIE benefit the baking industry overall?
As you said in your intro, and thank you for that, is that when you attend IBIE, you are not just supporting yourself and what your business needs are, you're supporting the industry as a whole. And we are the largest baking event in the Western Hemisphere for baking. And I think when you pay your registration fee, which Jorge mentioned now includes all education, and when you walk around that show floor for 4 days and you interact with our exhibitors, you're investing in our industry, and you're investing in programs that during the 3 years that IBIE is not happening, or the 2 years in between rather, those proceeds are going back to 3 nonprofit entities. And you're supporting the work that BIMA and RBA and ABA do every day. You're supporting that work through those 2 off years. And I think that's really important as we, folks are stewards with their money and their time, is that when you support IBIE, you support the industry. And I think that's really important. And it's really fun to have an event that is so intrinsically connected to other properties of the industry through education, through advocacy, through research. So that's really cool to see. It's like a trickle of just being at this one event for 4 days in Vegas impacts 3 years of the baking industry.
Yeah, well, I cannot agree more with Sam on this. I think the baking industry in this hemisphere of the world is kind of like a community, and we are getting stronger and closer every year and every cycle we gather them in this IBIE show. What I think is by helping each one of the parts of this community, which is could be our ingredient supplier, could be a baker, could be a equipment manufacturer, or could be a service provider, by making them stronger is one way how they can grow, so the industry grows, so we better serve our real boss, which is the markets, which is the clients we have, each one of us. And of course we have a lot of competitors in each one of the parts of this value chain, but and we compete very hard, but we have clear that what is for the industry is for everybody and is for the future. And I think this community is very special because has a long history in its markets. And I think by attending IBIE, we are all providing the or delivering the results we expect in our companies, but also giving this growth to the whole industry.
How can someone attending IBIE for the first time maximize their experience with all these great offerings?
Yeah, I bet. I remember my first IBIE over a decade ago at this point. And it's big. It's a lot. It's two big halls at, I think, the second largest convention center in the United States. And I think as a first timer, what I would highly recommend is definitely getting the app downloaded. Take some time, a week or so before, to really look at it, get comfortable with it. And so that way you kind of know what you're going into when you get to the center. We have a couple different kind of hub spaces. We have a wholesale education stage, which is obviously the education presented there is very commercially focused. We are going to have our RBA Baker Center, which is retail baker focused demos, some fun competitions that audience members can participate in, cake competitions. That's kind of a good place to start each day, and then you can kind of hub and spoke out of them. And we also have our artisan village, which again is really focused on the artisan side of baking, both from a retail and a commercial standpoint, but really looking at kind of grounding yourself. And some folks decide to do just West Hall on Monday and just the North Hall on Tuesday, or some maybe split it in half. But really using the app, using the registration area for questions, the information counters we have kind of scattered throughout. And then also, I think as a first timer, you might need to make some friends while you're there. And on opening night on Sunday, we're going to have the second annual Rockin' Pint, which is a complimentary, basically, I think actually it's $10, and it's unlimited beer and chips and pretzels. And it's going to have a really fun band that I can't say the name of yet, but it's going to be coming out very, very soon. But it's just a great event. It's in the West Hall. You can sit, you can get to know some other bakers, and just kind of set up the rest of your time at IBIE. So as a first timer, again, it probably is going to be a smidgen overwhelming, but once you have a couple donuts and a couple slices of bread from some of the exhibitors, I think you'll probably be fine and you'll have a great time.
Yeah, well, but I can add, totally agree with Sam. I would say there is a matter of information. Actually, there's a job what I would suggest is a homework to do before attending there, is review our webpage. And our webpage, they have lots of information regarding what you can find there. So in that regard, you can learn, but also do that planning that Sam was suggesting. With the application also, once you have it download, you can set interviews in advance, so you can plan your day more in detail, and could be meetings not just with exhibitors but also with attendees that they are already registered there. And of course, it's a great opportunity to plan and try to attend IBA Educate. I mean, there's lots of information for all the positions, all the roles, all what is going on the industry, and it needs planning because it's a huge program, and it's impossible to take it one person all. So you have to share that with your teams, and try to cover as much as possible of what your industry is needed. And I totally agree with Sam. It's the right place to network, to know the right people. So look for the ones that you want to talk to meet, and look for them. This is an industry, and very friendly industry, and I'm sure that anybody that you are looking for, they're going to be willing to talk to you and know you.
What role do education sessions play at IBIE, and which ones are a must for bakers and first timers?
So for education, we have our own brand. We call it IBI Educate. And we have a couple different components to that. And obviously, IBIE, we have this trade show where you can see solutions, but we also have meeting rooms up on the second floor of each hall that will have education from basically 8 a.m. to noon each day, that focus on a couple different areas, both retail, both commercial, and hands-on. The education program is kind of underway as we speak, and will be launched at the end of January, early February. And again, like Jorge and I have mentioned, is that for the first time, access to session rooms, access to stage presentations is 100% included with every single attendee and exhibitor's registration this time. And so, unlike in the previous years where you would have your expo pass and then you'd have to add on education, when we got into our strategic planning for the 2025 show, we really felt like it was important to make it as easy as possible to navigate IBIE and get the most out of IBIE, and that was to add education and the expo together. And so now you'll be able to use the app, like I mentioned, and look at all the education and build your agenda prior to even arriving to the center, and really looking at what education speaks to you and what is important to you. So we have that classroom setting, but then, like I mentioned, with our stages, is that throughout the entire day, Monday through Wednesday, Sunday through Wednesday, we have 3 stages that will have kind of 24/7 content going on in those 3 respective areas. And so, again, it's really important that you're learning and taking advantage of all of the content and all the expertise that's going to be in that building. And so IBIE felt education, it has to be forefront and it has to be easy to get to. And so we have that.
Yeah. We're very, very proud of having the world's largest on-site education program. Sam didn't mention, but there's more than 100 sessions for every industry segment and jobs role. So as I was mentioning, it's taking part of the whole value chain of a baking industry. So it's really worth it to plan to try to cover as much as possible. And as I mentioned, trying to get it done with your team, trying to spread all the sessions that you are really interested, and that needs planning and needs review of the program, which is really rich.
One thing I would mention too is Jorge mentioned that we'll have a track of education that is exclusively served in Spanish. We are also looking into technologies to allow for simultaneous real-time translation of our other sessions, that you'll just use your phone. You don't have to have a headset or anything like that. You just use your own earphones and your own device. And so, as an IBIE, we are called the International Baking Industry Exposition. International is extremely important to us. We average to be about 30% international attendance exhibitor show after show, which is a really fun metric to have. And I think something that's really interesting for us is that because we lean that far, we have lots of services. And so we have translators in the registration area. We have an international trade lounge. It's located in the West Hall this year. And inside that lounge, exhibitors and attendees, if they need services for translation, whether they need the translation themselves or they're trying to work with an attendee that needs a translator as an exhibitor, you can come to that International Trade Lounge and you can speak. We'll have translators there. You can reserve time to have them actually come back with you to your booth if you're really trying to have a full-fledged conversation. And just really leaning on that and making sure that we're providing resources for our 30% of our attendees and exhibitors to have those kind of opportunities to have a good time at IBIE. I think internationally, we work really closely with our friends at IBA and Mexipon and MOBAC and all the other ones that we are a part of. And I think it's really fun getting together and seeing all of our friends from those organizations coming to our show, and just really, again, seeing that atmosphere of networking and just support of the baking industry.
You have both shared so many exciting elements of the event. I'd love to end this time with taking the moment to hear what you're most looking forward to at IBIE.
Yeah, well, let me jump first. Well, definitely, every cycle we expect the best for our industry. So what I'm especially expecting is to have the best IBIE ever during this cycle, and we're working very hard to get it done. So in that way, every cycle we can do the same, raising the bar. The second thing that I would say that I'm expecting is to have an increased international attendance and exhibition. And that has been happening in the last cycle. So this one, I really expect to have a greater participation on countries of this hemisphere. And so this is also working and was planned for that. So in this regard, what I'm expecting is I really prefer to have the other countries from the other hemisphere coming to our show rather than the countries going to that other hemisphere looking for baking shows. So I expect to the industry to find everything they need just right in our show, IBIE 2025.
I think what I'm looking most forward to is I like to think of IBIE as my Super Bowl. As an event planner, IBIE is a very large endeavor. It is 3 years, but it takes 3 years to get there. And I think the complexity of 20,000 people, almost 1,000 exhibitors, all of the labor and logistics that goes into building a concrete box into a show floor that smells good and looks good, having over 100 companies taking advantage of our corporate meeting program, which is when you have a meeting room in the center to have a planning meeting for your team, or a post, what did you see? What did you like where we need to go tomorrow, or even hosting your customers for a breakfast. Having the corporate meeting program, having the education program, having all the show features and the exhibitors, registration, it is so fun and so rewarding to see your literal work comes alive for those 4 days, and having so many people walk around and just be so grateful and thankful and excited to be there, is what I look forward to. It really keeps you going. And again, I mentioned, kind of 2022 was our out of COVID year. That one felt really good that we were able to come back and come back so strong. That 2025 is going to be awesome. It's going to be bigger and better. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to, just seeing it all come to life.
Thank you both for your time and all these helpful insights into IBIE. After hearing about IBIE, we hope you will join us at this event. Early bird pricing is available until March 5th, 2025, and you can register up until the event. Let us know what you thought of the show by emailing hello@americanbakers.org. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you.